The Sports Underground is brought to you by Best Western Plus Mall of America, Bloomington, Minnesota. Hey everyone, Sports Underground back. Mike and Kent again. Going to do a little bit of more NFL wrap-up. This time we're going to concentrate on our beloved Minnesota Vikings. And we sat here, beginning of the season, actually before the draft, and told you they're terrible, they can't cover anyone, we can't throw the ball, we can't defend the ball, and we're going to be bad. And here we sit, end of the season, look who's right. And they may have been worse than even we thought.
I think so too, because I picked them to be 5 wins, maybe 6 on a good day if they got one lucky. And 5-win team is a terrible team. Mm-hmm. We're well below that.
Oh yeah, we might have been lucky to get the 3 we got.
And you know, you look through the paper. If you look through the paper and look at all the lines and see what we lost by, on paper it looks like we didn't lose by much, because there's a lot of games we lost by 3 points or 7 points.
Right.
But we weren't close.
No.
We weren't close.
Well, you look at the best 2 teams in our division, the Lions and the Packers, and I guess even throw the Bears there, we couldn't beat them either.
No.
They destroyed us. I mean, we weren't... The first Packer game, start the new quarterback, you have a little momentum, crowd gets behind you, you fight till the end, you still lose. Then you go on the road, and you figure out how far behind the Packers you really are.
But talk about, I mean, from every aspect, out-coached, out-special teams. You know, our defense wasn't up to par and showed its age and showed it didn't have an identity.
No, except Jared Allen was all we had. If he didn't make the play wasn't going to be made. That's kind of how it was. You know,
right. And you know, maybe we go back to the beginning of the season, and I asked this is, do we maybe have a few more wins with Bryant McKinney on the team?
Well, yeah, I can't pick out my favorite Charlie Johnson moment, but I don't know if he was necessarily the reason we lost. Yeah, McKinney would have been an upgrade, I'm sure. Move Johnson to guard, maybe have a little better chance there. But bringing in McNabb was obviously not the answer. But I think before you even talk about the failures of players, how in the world did we get to where we are? And how does Leslie Frazier come back with a job? How does Rick Spielman get promoted? And what are the Wilfs doing? Because all I know is if I owned a company and someone came to me and said, Kent, I tell you what, we are going to go to the playoffs, we're going to be right there. And then you look at it and you end up being 3-13. How can you be that far off in your judgment and get rewarded because of it?
Well, you know, first of all, we are the worst team in the NFL, correct?
Oh, I would say so.
Because, like I said, we don't have an ace in the hole like the Colts do. We don't have that number 1 draft pick, and I think the Rams are maybe not significantly better than us, but they're better than us. I think they got more pieces to build on than us.
Right. Well,
therefore, I think we are the worst team in the league. I think what is glaring for this team is that the Wilfs, the ownership, their priority isn't the football team, it's the development of the business aspect of it.
Right.
It's the money in their pocket, which should be, as a business owner, it should be. I give them that right. But their attention to the football operations and the fans leaves a little to be desired, does it not?
Yeah, the stadium talk and we need to be in Arden Hills to build our megaplex and our hotels and all that stuff.
That seems like
you're right.
That seems like the driving force that all that matters to them. And the football and the result of the football team is taking a far back seat.
Well, everything the Wilfs seem to do and have done is just unrational, quick thinking. We need a head coach.
How easy is this?
Brad Childress is in town.
Yeah, well, let's put some names in a hat and let's not let this guy leave.
Green Bay might hire him. Okay, sign him. Okay, we fired him. Who do we have? Leslie Frazier might be a candidate somewhere else. Okay, let's sign him.
Yeah,
you guys need to get a GM. Bill Polian's out there. Well, Spielman's here. He's in the building. Let's just sign him up. I mean, he went 3-13. He probably knows what he's doing.
Well, it's like they didn't want to change nameplates on the door. Do you know what I mean? So there's no effort going into improving the team. So therefore, you know, for me personally, what a boring, long season.
Well, you think this year was boring and long? What's going to happen next year? I mean,
Adrian's not going to play till Thanksgiving at
Well,
best.
You talk about things team-wise. Let's get back to the field here for a minute. Who are your stars? Adrian Peterson, Percy Harvin, Jared Allen, Kevin Williams, Antoine Winfield.
Is Kevin Williams?
And just stay with me here for a second. And Christian Ponder. Let's say those are your marquee names. Okay? Adrian Peterson, broken leg, torn up knee. When are we going to see him? We don't know. Percy Harvin had a great end of the year. Migraine problems, I still know they're gone. There's a problem with that guy. Jared Allen, the only guy on the team I know next year coming back is going to be a force. You don't have to worry about him.
But is it hard to neutralize one guy on a team? I mean, if you...
Well, it should have been a lot easier than what teams made it look, because he got 22 sacks and no help. I mean, he was a one-man gang. We had nothing. Kevin Williams, older, and probably didn't hear his name mentioned until week 9 or 10.
Nope, I don't think he cares anymore.
I don't think so either. And Antoine Winfield broke his collarbone, won't move to safety, thinks he's still a cornerback. Where do you go with that guy?
There's coaches younger than him in the NFL.
That is true. And then Christian Ponder, we're going to try and build this team around this guy, and at times is outplayed by Joe Webb, who I don't think either of us wanted to be the starting quarterback of this team.
No, but he sure is fun to watch.
Well,
I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
you know, but
right.
Christian Ponder sure looks like a reach. He sure looks like third-round talent in the first round. And this is rehashing old stuff, but boy, Ryan Mallett sure would have been a nice flyer.
Well, we're going to pat ourselves on the back until we're blue in the face here.
That's the unknown.
Going to the draft last year, we said take a lineman, take a D-back, take something. You don't need the quarterback early. You can get him late. Of course, we take Ponder. We say we're going to stink. We might be in the luck sweepstakes. Pretty close. And now you go into this year to the draft.
Are we in the RG3?
Exactly. Would we be better off with one of those linemen last year, take your pick, or a cornerback, and now this year we can get one of the elite quarterbacks. We're not settling. They just completely botched this thing again. They over-evaluated, I say talent, and I use that word very loosely because we don't have much of it.
We always talk about this too between you and I, they outsmart themselves. They think they have it down. They think they're going to pay Bernard Berrien marquee money and he's going to be a marquee player. They think they need to take Christian Ponder at number 12, otherwise he might be gone.
Yeah, someone might take him.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
That looks fine to me.
Right.
I'll tell you who I would have rather had is that lineman from Wisconsin, Gabe Karimi, would have looked all right in our team. The Boston College kid. Mm-hmm. You know, take your pick. And at the time, no, we knew then.
Right.
Prince of Makamura.
Mm-hmm. McFarley.
McFarley. Perfect example. Exactly. That's who you and I both wanted on this team.
And I still think going forward, we needed to add talent to this team. You don't pick for need when you need everything.
Yeah.
Now I get it. You can evaluate wrong. You can miss on some things. I understand that stuff happens. You know, obviously, if we were the greatest two at it, we'd be in the NFL doing talent evaluation somewhere. But it's pretty sad when just a couple of regular guys like us who love the Vikings, love sports, can sit around, look at the product and say, I know we're going to be terrible. How do all these people so plugged in?
How do they miss?
Can they not get their head out of the, can they not pull their head out enough to see they're terrible? Or do they just have to believe that, we knew what we were doing? I got to tell the boss we're good. Or people connected with the Vikings, they just can't say anything bad about them because they don't want to lose their job or don't want to get yelled at or have a friend not talk to them. I just don't understand how you look yourself in the mirror after you think they're going to be good. There's just no way.
To absolutely mention the word playoffs around that team at any point in 2011 calendar year, you'd have to be in a mental ward.
Well, you would. Yeah.
I'm looking at that team. I don't know how anybody could have.
Well, we sat here beginning of the season and said it's a passing league. We can't cover the pass and we can't pass. And really, if you know nothing else about football, that should have been enough to realize the Packers and Lions were going to tear us a new one.
Sure. And that's why you don't take a tight end in the second round. That's still a good value pick.
Right.
And not a need pick for us. That confused me. I like Kyle Rudolph. I think he's going to be a great player.
Right.
Not now. We don't need him now. And there's always
there was other things to fix, but tight ends, you can find a tight end somewhere.
There's always going to be a tight end out there.
Yeah, if you draft a number 2, he better be Jimmy Graham-like, and he better be at ASAP. If you're going to spend that kind of value on that kind of pick. And we're going to get into the draft here in a little bit. But before we do, we talk about a screw-up the draft last year. We're rebuilding. At least we say we are. Do you have any faith in Spielman and the rest of the gang that they're going to get this right?
No, I think, like I said, they're going to outsmart themselves, or they're going to do something like they're going to trade down and they're going to botch it somehow. Something's going to happen here where we come out feeling we got shorts, got the short end of the stick, or we're going to look stupid, or something like that. I just have a bad feeling about this because we have the number 3 pick, and you can honestly throw a dart at a dartboard of positions, and outside of kicker and punter, you can pretty much draft the guy that's number 1 on the board. Well, and don't, for God's sake, Vikings, don't use your board that you put together. Use Mel Kiper's this year, please.
Yeah. Take 8 guys, give them all a number value. Whatever comes in number 1, just pick it. Don't think yourself. So, but here's another problem. So, you and I are both on the. We don't know if we like the Spielman hire at all because he failed miserably last year. So he gets promoted to GM. Does he now think he has to make a pick to save his job, and he doesn't necessarily do what's best for the team? He does what's best for Rick Spielman, so Rick Spielman can say, "Look what I did! I got us this guy." I'm really, really concerned that this whole thing is going to go awry.
What's Spielman's lifespan here? 1 year, 2 years? If he sees 5 years, I'll eat my shorts on camera.
Do you trust the Wilfs to do the right thing if he fails and get rid of him? They didn't even bring in Bill Polian for an interview. They didn't bring him in for an interview. A guy who took the Colts from nothing, albeit had Peyton Manning, and built them into a perennial playoff contender. Where are we? Why don't we talk to the guy? I mean, it's like first guy that applies, first guy gets the job. I'm going to fill an application, just have it on file there. Maybe they'll hire me for something if I'm the first guy with the application.
That's about it.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's about it.
So, anyway, let's go into the draft here. We're going to go to the board here, and we're going to look at 2012 Minnesota Vikings mock draft that we put together here for the Sports Underground. Like our high tech, we're getting very, very techy here on the Underground. So, looking at some of the available options with us, Justin Blackman, wide receiver, Oklahoma State. Obviously, you can read it, 6'1", 215. 121 catches for 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns last year. Obviously, when you look at our receiving core, the only thing we have is Percy Harvin, and after that, I have a better chance of catching a football than those guys. So, obviously a fit, but the Rams kind of in control here. Do they take up number 2? They can use receiver. Do they trade down looking to get some value for Robert Griffin, someone moving up trying to get him?
And right now we do sit in a good spot because we're going to get one of the top 3 players in the draft, and I don't think we can even screw this up. Because would I be happy if we got Blackman? Yes, but you can find yourself a receiver, and I don't think that's what we need right now.
Well, free agency, there's a lot of good free agent receivers. I think you draft where the free agent is so good, you go and find yourself a receiver, a proven receiver. Because how many of these guys do you draft actually work out? Randy Moss, A.J. Green. I mean, after that, it takes a few years to get.
For every one of those is a Braylon Edwards.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But there's also an Andre Johnson and a Fitzgerald.
Now, you say we're going to get one of the top 3 players. We can't screw this up.
Just watch.
Let's say the Rams draft Justin Blackman. He's off the board. Here we go to our next pick. We're number 3. Matt Khalil's on the board, 6'7", 295. Looks like a Jake Long, Joe Thomas kind of player. Going to be very solid, if not spectacular, at that left tackle position for years. But someone wants to move up and get RG3 in our spot. Matt Khalil's there. We could trade for RG3 and more picks. What do you do?
That's a tough call. This guy here is supposed to be the best thing in the draft. It's the biggest need, although not sexy or fun to watch. The Vikings probably could start there with a good solid base at that line. You
take Matt Khalil. I'm not going to question you.
Nope.
I'm going to say, you know what? Huge need. You could use him.
But you move back to number 6 and trade with the Browns or somebody. Move back to 6 so they can get RG3.
Right.
And all of a sudden you miss out on this guy. And now at 6, I don't feel like you have one of those elite players in this draft.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Well, the Browns would be interesting because the Browns pick 4th, right after us. So, let's say you move down one spot, you get an extra pick, they get RG3, Khalil's still there. That I can live with.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
It's the Redskins, the Dolphins, the teams a little farther back in the draft. That's where we start to get a little too smart. We'll have someone else on our board rated higher the entire time. Just ask them; they'll tell you.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we're drafting 13th, and we got the Dolphins 2013, and #1 pick and their 2014 4th-round pick. So
Right.
big deal. What are you doing for me today?
Right. We package them together and move up in the 3rd round to take Tavares Jackson. That's what we probably do.
Yep, exactly.
Another guy, another big area of need for us, Morris Claiborne, cornerback from LSU, 6'1", 185. I put on here it's a little too early, not enough value to pick this guy at number 3. If you would trade down and this guy would be available, that would be kind of where I'd be looking at.
We end up with this guy. I'm still happy.
Right. Are you happy at number 3 though?
I don't think we pass up Khalil for him.
Okay, Khalil's off the board. Is it Claiborne or Blackman?
I think it's trade down time then.
Okay.
I think so, don't you?
Well, I think so too. I think if you don't get Khalil,
but if you don't get value for that 3rd pick, this is your pick.
I think if you don't get Khalil, this draft is you're in a lot of trouble in this draft. That's what I think you've got to get him because you're never going to protect Ponder. And if you think that Ponder is the answer, you need to keep him on his feet. He was dinged up and nicked up all year. You start with the offensive line, and if you tell me that there's a different way to go, I don't know what you're doing. I just don't.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, if we trade down to 6 or 7,
yeah.
Claiborne's there. He's your guy. But I think offensive line.
To me, for the Vikings need and where they're drafting, Khalil's 1, this guy's 2.
Right.
And I don't think it's close.
A couple more options here. Let's say the Vikings do trade down, and we're in the 7, 8, 9 position. Drake Kirkpatrick, cornerback from Alabama. Obviously, we can use the cornerbacks. 6'3", 192, big cornerback, but just got arrested for marijuana. So once again, do we have another cornerback that got a little trouble with doing something and breaking the law this last year? Chris Cook, ring a bell?
That does, yep.
Do we need more of these guys? I say if he's in trouble now, we can't afford to mess around with him.
We can't. No, we can't afford to mess with suspensions or any sort of other legal problems that would stand in the way from somebody helping this team. Absolutely not. Plus, we have Griffin, who's got both knees replaced and sounds like he's on his way out the door.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so
we can't.
We can't miss on a cornerback.
Right. My next point: if we do take a corner, they've got to be good, and they've got to be good for a long time.
Right. And then I also threw in Riley Reif, offensive tackle from Iowa. He's the second of the 3 big tackles. Martin from Stanford being the other one. But 6'6", 300 pounds. I think I've watched him in the Big Ten, but I can't tell you I broke down film on him.
No.
But I'm going to go to my scouts, the guys I trust, to look at this kind of thing. They say there's not much drop-off from Khalil, but there is a drop-off. And as bad as we are, wouldn't it be nice to say you got the best at some position instead of trying to outsmart yourself? This guy's higher on the board probably, and look what happens then.
I'm going to say if you go to Wisconsin, probably Ohio State, Iowa, Alabama, and you're drafting the 1st round of your offensive lineman, you're probably trusted that you're pretty good.
Well, how many linemen in past history were drafted very high, turned out to be busts?
Robert Gallery.
Okay, there's one. Mandrich, I guess that's a long time ago. And then the Bills took, was it Davis, I believe?
I thought it was Mike Williams.
Mike Williams, you're right.
Texas,
yeah. He was the other guy.
But so for the most part, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, there's 3 in the last 20 years.
You can hang your hat on an offensive lineman guy if you take him high. If you hit on him, you got a Joe Thomas, Jake Long. Mm-hmm. Talk about elite talent for a long, long time.
Right.
So is that worth a gamble? I think it is. I think it's a safe bet.
Right, I think so too. I think
it's safer than a corner. I think it's safer than a quarterback. Obviously, we're not talking Andrew Luck.
Right.
But I think it's safer than RG3.
Oh, I agree. I think you're
I wouldn't gamble this year if you're the Vikings.
No, we can't afford to. I think just don't outsmart yourselves. You took a quarterback last year. You need to protect him. Take the lineman. Go in free agency. Maybe find another lineman or 2. Find some receivers. And then you got a next 3-4 rounds. You got to dig D-back, D-back, D-back. Because we need a ton of them.
I'm going to give you a name here that I like, and I've liked for a couple of years here, and you could argue that it's a need for the Vikings. Kellen Moore, quarterback, Boise State. What round, and yes or no?
Yes, because I'm going to use the Andy Dalton theory here, where everyone said, he wins some games, smaller school,
the guy wins, and he looks good too.
Didn't play a lot of big teams. We don't know about him. Last time I checked, Kellen Moore has more wins in college football than any quarterback ever.
Wasn't like 59-2 or something, or it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And the guy was a leader. They won a lot. Now, obviously, you drafted Ponder, so you're not looking.
And I'm not saying starting quarterback, but
I know.
You take the guy in the 5th round and you put him behind Joe Webb.
I think
what do you lose?
I think if he's their 4th or 5th round, you definitely snatch him.
As the Vikes, yes.
But I'm telling you what, you don't take Ponder last year. You get some draft picks. Now in the 4th or 5th round, let's say you're still looking. Wouldn't you take a flyer on that guy? And I think he has as much upside as Christian Ponder does. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not the biggest Christian Ponder backer in the world, but he's done nothing to make me get too excited.
No, well, if I'm running that draft, I think if I'm running that draft, we got McFarland on the defensive line. Something other than a tight end in the 2nd round. I'm not going to act like I know the 2nd round real well.
Right.
Well, we got Ryan Mallett in the 3rd round. I know that.
Right.
For 3rd round value, that guy, I don't care. He's tall.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me in the 3rd round.
Well, yeah, just the overvaluing of Ponder is what I question everything we've done, and what makes me question this draft going forward.
Right, and do we got to beat that dead horse? You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. We could sit here and we could complain about this all year long, but this draft, it's a make or break year. We said it last year. It wasn't make, it was break. Well, 2 in a row if you screw it up. Yeah. I'd like to say there's consequences. Unfortunately, there probably isn't.
No,
but we're going to be suffering as Vikings fans. You know, we're going to be eating Packer Crow here, and then Lion Crow coming for 4 or 5 more years the way it looks, because we don't have it figured out, folks. We don't.
What is the point of firing Frazier right now?
There isn't a point, because no one that comes in is going to turn this team around. But we could have started with a GM who maybe knew something. You know, I'll go with that. And
that is correct.
And let that guy come in. Let Bill Polian come in. Look at the team and say, okay, Frazier, yeah, you can't mess things up too much. Or
no, what we need is an outside presence to come in and be like,
look, you guys are doing it wrong.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's what we did in Indianapolis and it worked.
Yeah. The Wolves, they don't stick their nose in Jerry Jones like, but they stick their nose in enough to screw it up. They don't know what they're doing. And it's their new toy. I get it. They bought it. They can do whatever they want. But the toy ain't so shiny anymore.
No.
The toy ain't so new anymore.
Yeah.
And no one else really wants to play with the toy. You can tell the fans are starting to get a little sick of what's going on here. And we haven't even talked about the defensive coordinator mess, where you don't really fire your defensive coordinator. You keep him on staff. You interview some guys before you let them know you're demoting him. And now you have him and Singletary, Puckett and Singletary, both coaching linebackers. We dusted off the Colts D-back coach. Last time I checked, the Colts weren't stopping anyone in the air. And this guy's been an assistant for 10 years without getting promoted. Just all kinds of questions. If you want to go to the Colts and get a guy, where was Bill Polian again? I'm going to keep pulling that out. But we like these Colts coaches. Why don't we like their front office?
Yeah. And we keep trying to, I think what we keep trying to do is find that next coach that we made, Tony Dungy.
Mick Tomlin, Brian Billick, the guys we all let away. We're not going to screw it up this time. We're going to
keep them. So we don't want to screw this up one more time because we let some good coaches slip through our fingers.
Right.
And what we're doing now is grasping. We're just grasping. But I just, Frazier seems like a good guy. I really root for him, but it doesn't get it done in this business. And, like I said, what's the point of firing him?
And you're right. There's no point right now. But something's got to change. The season, I can't take another season of 3-13. I honestly can't. But at least everyone else involved in the team, be honest with yourselves. Just admit that you gotta start over. We're done.
I don't think the question is where can we get better. We all know that.
Right.
It's everywhere.
Right.
We got to get more of a Greenway.
Yes.
But how is a team that's this bad, like within $150,000 of the salary cap?
Yeah.
Where did that money go?
I don't have any idea. I think we need Chuck Fletcher to come in and get rid of some of it, because the Wild were in the same boat 2 years ago. Same question we asked them.
How are they that terrible?
The Vikings have a lot of tough questions to answer this offseason. And as we go through the offseason, we're going to do more on this, do a little more of a draft. But is Steve Hutchinson going to be a Viking next year?
I say no.
Is E.J. Henderson going to be a Viking next year?
I say no.
Is Antoine Winfield going to be a Viking next year?
I say yes.
There's a lot of big money. Is Kevin Williams going to be a Viking? There's going to be, it's the Peyton
That's about $40 million you just saved yourself.
It's the Peyton Manning discussion without that much talent. And then, if you get rid of these guys, what do you tell Jared Allen? Do you say, I know you want to win, Jared, but we're 4 years away from rebuilding?
We're not going to do it.
I mean, if you ever wanted to move a guy, there's never been more value than right now to get rid of Jared Allen. I'd hate to see him go. I love watching the guy play.
So do I.
But give the guy a chance somewhere and get some picks. There's some teams that would pay you a pretty hefty ransom for him.
It's better for the team. It's better for him.
Yeah.
Where does he go? You could point to any team in the NFL and he'd be an upgrade for him.
Yeah.
Really, just is he not? If he's not the elite, he's up there.
Yeah. I think he's the best in the business. Obviously getting older, but sell high. Just for once, sell high. Get what you can out of him. We're not going to be good for 4 or 5 years. So that's Vikings talk for today. And like I said, going forward before the draft, You're going to hear us, same thing, we're going to preach, we're going to complain, but hopefully they get this fixed, and we'll have a lot more to say about it, I'm sure.